Chris, you and I have talked about China's ambitions in Taiwan before. I think they're at a fever pitch. I really don't think they've been this aggressive before, both rhetorically and in probing Taiwan's airspace, and actually with naval actions too that seem designed to keep Americans out. Do you think they're actually going to invade?
I think that they will invade at some point, but not now. This year is a very politically sensitive one for Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler. He wants a president-breaking third term as general secretary. And the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party, if tradition holds, will be held in October or November. But after that, anything can happen. Now, Ezra, there are hundreds of reasons why China should not invade Taiwan, but those are like in a rational world. The Communist Party lives in a different world than we do, different galaxy. So I'm very concerned that they can take us by surprise. They've got a number of things going on which we can't see because the political system has become less transparent. So there is a real possibility that they would make some military move on Taiwan.
You know, one of the big issues in Europe in dealing with Russia is Europe's dependence on Russian oil and even more on Russian natural gas. And, you know, Germany itself, more than a third of their energy comes from Russia. So how do you put sanctions on an enemy that supplies you a third of your energy? If you put sanctions on them, are you not actually punishing yourself? Well, Russia is small economically compared to our integration with China. And it's almost unthinkable if we were even to try to put economic sanctions on China. I learned during the pandemic that more than 90% of our medicines are made in China, just for one example. So much of our technology comes from China, even our food, so much of our logistics. So I wonder, is China actually immune to some of the economic and political sanctions that are being used against Russia?
Some people in Beijing think that China is, in fact, immune and that the United States and others would not sanction China for the reasons you talk about. And that is extremely dangerous. Now, I think the Chinese are extraordinarily dependent on the U.S. and others because they right now got an export-dependent economy. They need money because of the debt crisis, and they're short of food. But nonetheless, Chinese arrogance right now is breathtaking. And I think the gap between China's abilities and what the Chinese actually think they can do is really something that should make us concerned that they would make a grab for Japan, Philippines, India, Taiwan, could be any number of different victims.
How is the military balance? I mean, the Chinese Navy in particular has had great advances. They're getting used to using their operational aircraft carrier, and they have more on the way. I mean, they're replacing their old, Cold War era fighter jets with modern jets, some of which look like they were just ripped out of the American blueprints. I don't think the entire People's Liberation Army is modern and ready to fight, but I think there's a percentage of it that is probably almost on par with the American military. But the advantage is it's just across the narrow strait from Taiwan, and like at least Ukraine abuts the rest of Europe. There's trains, there's trucks. I mean, Taiwan is so far away from being resupplied. Biden just said he's going to send another $40 billion or so to Ukraine. I know how it can get there. If America were to say we're going to give $40 billion to Taiwan, I actually don't know how it would physically get there. I'm worried that Taiwan could not stand a lengthy battle with China. Maybe I'm saying the obvious. What do you think?
Well, there's a lot there to talk about. Some of China's weapons are actually better than America's. So, for instance, their cruise missiles. They travel faster, they got longer range, and that's critical because that can keep the U.S. Navy away from Taiwan, which goes to your point about can we resupply the island. And because of that, I think the United States needs to pre-position weapons on Taiwan and actually needs to put troops there as a tripwire. We were surprised, of course, about Russia invading Ukraine, and we should not be surprised about Taiwan. The idea of resupplying Ukraine, that's great, But it would have been better if the Biden administration and the Trump administration had actually put more weapons into Ukraine and more training. So this is a mistake we should not make twice.
That was an excerpt from my daily TV-style show called The Ezra Levant Show. Each weekday, I do a monologue on the news of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest. I read some fan mail or hate mail, depends on which I like more. And we end with a video of the day. You can get it all at rebelnewsplus.com.